Time to learn our ABCs. I want our kids to learn about AEIOU instead of LGBTQ. Hi, pre-K teacher here. No need to worry, Nancy. It's in our curriculum to cover all the letters eventually. This week we're working on STFU, the most accurate description of the Trump presidency so far. So far 2025 feels like being awake during surgery. Friendly reminder, in the United States, criminals are entitled to due process. Even if you pay hush money, rig an election, steal top secret documents, or incite a mob to overthrow the government, no matter how egregious your crimes, you're entitled to due process. They're onto something here. Marijuana has been shown to alleviate nausea, vomiting, insomnia, headaches, anxiety, and depression, all of which are symptoms of Donald Trump being president. I mean, it was 420 a couple of days ago, all I'm saying. Marco Rubio is now acknowledging that it might not be possible for Trump to end Russia's war on Ukraine. Trump promised to end it before he took office. But I thought Trump would end it within 24 hours? Promises made, promises not delivered. Imagine actually believing he was going to end the war in 24 hours of being elected, not even the first 24 hours in the White House. The lie was so absolutely astounding. Now people in the US hand wave it all away as sarcasm. You don't get it. They didn't believe that any more than they believed that he was going to lower the prices of groceries. Those were just Trojan horses to unite in bigotry and hate. But we're capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow, and improve productivity. Excuse me? Drug tests for everyone in the White House, and I'm not joking. If there's ever a breach in the space-time continuum, at least we'll know where it began. What the fuck is this nonsense? The number one sign you've been brainwashed into supporting fascism is when you manage to never attack fascism. Republicans have the numbers to impeach Trump in the House and convict him in the Senate. From here on out, they are complicit with everything he does. See, you don't understand. Jesus needed better consultants. If Jesus had focused more on kitchen table issues and less on unpopular outcasts like lepers and prostitutes, he may have won more support from the white working class Judeans. Boomers. We didn't have so much autism when I was young. The same boomers when you served them alcohol in the wrong special glass. Yeah, they still had autism, but they kept everyone hid because they thought it'd bring shame to the family. Yeah, never ask what happened to Rosemary Kennedy. I told my wife that's probably the only experience he has to go off of, and one of the reasons he thinks that way. The worst part is that she was probably just neurotypical, and was just not submissive or ladylike enough for her father. Yeah, that's all it was. She was out partying and having a good time, and it was embarrassing daddy, and they gave her a lobotomy. Yeah, you left out the $15 million we're paying El Salvador to house our prisoners. @Van Chris Holland confirms taxpayers paid him to fly to El Salvador and sip margaritas with a deported illegal immigrant MS-13 gang member. This is fraud, waste and abuse. Ridiculous waste of money. So, how much does each Trump golf outing cost taxpayers? I actually had a MAGA friend argue with me that he's taking the trips for security, because people are trying to kill him. Flying to play golf in the middle of a field where everyone can see you. Really pro-security. And it's not easier to protect him at the fortress known as the White House, where agents are routinely trained to understand the layout and operations? Having him strut around an open field is safer? Yeah, reasoning is not their thing. All in all, $3.4 to $4 million after all the travel, detail, security, their travel, and hotel stay. That each time. Peaceful protests that are mostly ignored by the media. The turnout in small towns across the country have been incredible, drawing crowds of thousands. We're already seeing over 1 million in attendance nationwide, and events are still underway. Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Ohio all had especially surprising showings. If it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. If it looks like a fascist, swims like a fascist, and quacks like a fascist, then it's definitely a fascist. It's making noise in right-wing circles though. They keep claiming that these protesters are paid and whatnot. Booker's record-breaking speech, the election results in Florida and Wisconsin, and these protests are shifting the energy right now. Every time someone posts a schedule for the local 50501 protests, half a dozen arseholes show up to cry about it. You know it's working when the Nazis are afraid. The comments on local posts about the protests are wild. So many commenters with much outrage that anyone dares criticize this administration. Many of the comments are from new Reddit accounts and appear to be focused on leaving obnoxious comments. They appear to exist just for this purpose. Best to just ignore those, they're not here to debate or contribute. They could also be bots, of course. And despite all of that, it's evidence that they're working. Last night was the 250th anniversary of Paul Revere's midnight ride to warn the Minutemen of approaching British troops. I want to take a moment to share an excerpt from the Declaration of Independence's grievances against King George III. Remind you of anyone? For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offences. Time to deport some of those homegrown gangbangers. Up next, TDS 13. The Chief Justice stands at a constitutional crossroads, while Trump speeds through red lights unchecked. We may have a hard time understanding what's happening to America because we're in on the middle of events. Those looking on from outside of the storm understand the situation quite clearly. I mean, even being in the middle of events, you can understand the situation quite clearly if you're not a fucking idiot. It looks pretty fucking clear even for us in the thick of it. There are authoritarians, those complicit in their silence, and those opposing it. Yeah, right? I think by June of 2020 we all knew COVID was pretty fucked up, and that was still fairly early into it. Elon Musk hopes to close 11 OSHA field offices. Among them is the agency's only office in Louisiana, one of the most dangerous states for workers in the US. Ah yes, the peak of government efficiency, allowing your workers to get hurt and die more. Right, unbelievable. The guy who once claimed total authority is now just pretending he's the guy who waters the plants in the Oval Office. The buck stops here versus I'm not involved. Trump dodges on El Salvador court orders. I'm not involved. The president deflected questions about Abrao Garcia in the Oval Office on Thursday, telling reporters to talk to the Justice Department. Ah yes, he's got absolutely no power. It's not like he's a president that's acting like he can just ignore any checks and balances and acting like he does have supreme power. Like a broken record, useless and stupidly annoying. Who do you blame for the war? Joe Biden? Why is Russia murdering children? Biden? Why won't you deliver Patriot systems? Biden? Why won't Russia agree to a ceasefire? Biden? Why can't you easily broker a peace deal like you promised? Obviously because of sleepy Joe Biden, it's only him, it couldn't be my fault, it's not like I lie, I never lie. I don't know how people don't see through this shit at this point. Of course it wasn't sent without authorization. They just expected Harvard to fold, and don't know what to do that now they haven't. Trump officials blame mistake for setting off confrontation with Harvard. An official on the administration's anti-Semitism task force told the university that a letter of demands had been sent without authorization. Ah yes, sending a letter of demands to a place of education. Yeah, that's definitely not bully behavior. What are they gonna do next? Burn books? I mean, they started beef with Disney, which is notoriously litigious. Makes sense they wouldn't be afraid of Harvard despite it being, among other things, an attorney factory. Disney is just a giant law firm that happens to make movies. That makes movies to supply their amusement park with themes. Disney parks print way more money than the movies. Just like how Nintendo as well is a law firm that happens to make video games and consoles. Simple, loud truth. over and over. Van Hollen on Fox News Sunday. My whole point here is that if you deprive one man of his constitutional rights, you threaten the constitutional rights of everybody. If you threaten the rule of law for one person, you threaten it for everyone in America. What's that? People that are on US soil regardless of status are meant to be covered by the Constitution? That can't be right. That's not like that's in the Constitution or anything. He is representing his constituent and obeying his oath to the Constitution. This should be simple, straightforward stuff for those that took and passed 8th grade civics. Head over to Breitbart. Or, to be honest, don't if you want to preserve your sanity. There the front page article says, by stating that he is backtracking from the guy in prison. Civics was cut out of some schools, and it shows. The best counter-argument to anyone saying that deporting Mr. Garcia was a good thing is that if they can deport anyone without due process, they can deport you without due process. They never believe it would happen to them until it actually does. And then they don't generalise the learning. Canadian MP Charles Angus. I think what's really concerning is that an idiot like Trump has been allowed to sabotage the global economy without anyone stepping in to say, "Whoa Donald, what the heck are you doing?" Excellent point. What happened to checks and balances? Citizens United versus FEC. The corrupt John Robert SCOTUS ruling on Citizens United. Republicans in Congress refuse. They're complicit. It isn't just Trump doing stuff. He's got a whole support establishment that is making these things happen. Sunday morning, April 20th, 2025. Fox News Sunday, Van Hollen. NBC's Meet the Press, Van Hollen. CNN's State of the Union, Van Hollen. CBS's Face the Nation, Van Hollen. ABC's This Week, Van Hollen. This is what I want to see from my politicians right now. Speak up, go in person, fight for us. Chris Van Hollen is great. I had an issue with a federal office years ago, and finally threw in the towel and reached out to his office. They unfucked my problem in a week. Since then, I got on his mailing list for his actions that they send on a regular basis. They even got faux. Wow. Sure, they needed to try and spin the visit. The businessmen who criticize tariffs are bad at business, says businessman who has filed for bankruptcy 6 times. That also includes a casino. The businessmen who criticize tariffs are bad at business, but really bad at politics. They don't understand or realize that I am the greatest friend that American capitalism has ever had. Ah yes, Mr. 6-time bankruptcy is here to lecture actual business people, who correctly understand that tariffs will crush their businesses and raise prices for consumers. That they're the ones bad at business? Make it make sense. Even his villainy is stolen. The golden rule of negotiating and success. He who has the gold makes the rules. Thank you. Yeah, probably the most plainly he's ever laid out his philosophy on tariffs and basically everything else in life. This is literally a direct quote from over-the-top villain Jafar in Disney's Aladdin. Fuck, he stole all the physical gold in the country, didn't he? He said he was going to turn it all into bitcoins, didn't he? No, he's going to have it all melted down and remade as gaudy candle holders for his tacky-ass apartment in his tower. Who could have imagined a depraved, Trump-obsessed Fox News personality who's prone to sexually assaulting women wouldn't be a great Secretary of Defense? Who could have thought? The Pentagon is in total chaos, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is unlikely to remain in his role, according to its former top spokesperson who painted a scene of dysfunction, backstabbing, and continuous missteps at the highest levels of the department. Remember, they fired a 4-star general and replaced him with WikiLeaks. Will MAGA ever realize that DEI actually puts the most qualified person in the job? Or will they continue to use it to describe the race of high-achieving people like 4-star General Austin? This man is pure fucking evil. Tom Homan on ABC does not deny that the administration's position is that they have a right to grab people off the streets and deport them without a hearing. Ah, yes, of course. The land of the free. With the NKVD back. Guess we finally found the waste, fraud and abuse. It's grift all the way down. On Kash Patel's jet-setting lifestyle as the FBI director, a sharp departure from his predecessors. He's used FBI/DOJ private planes to attend a UFC fight in Vegas and an Islanders game in New York. Ah, MAGA. Prioritizing looking like they're doing stuff and being these superstars instead of actually doing stuff. The Trump administration's Abrao Garcia crimes are piling up. Just a reminder that Trump/DOJ continuing to let Abrao Garcia sit in CCOT is a crime. Deprivation of rights under colour of law is a crime. Was it an error at first? Maybe. But once they were aware of the error and ordered by a judge to return him, and then refusing, it's willful. Every time Pam Bondi or other officials get on TV and wave around something from 2019, which a judge has already looked at and rejected, and claim it justifies what they're doing, it is aiding and abetting the deprivation of rights of a US resident. That is a crime. Every minute of complete inaction to take any steps towards complying with the Supreme Court and lower court, and now Fourth Circuit order, inaction that has now been exposed by the fact that a US senator had access to Abrao Garcia, is obstruction of justice. That is a crime too. Ah yes, you can't find Abrao Garcia or be able to find a way to get him back into the States after a mistake you admitted to making and then defending that mistake by lying about him on things that have been debunked. Yeah. Please read The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. Did Samiel forget the reason we have food safety regulations is because companies used to do things like adding chalk to spoiled milk so it looked normal? Regulations don't exist because governments enjoy them. They exist because pure, unadulterated capitalism would kill us. Seriously. Is this pathological lying or dementia? Grandpa Trump is hallucinating again. He claims gas is $1.98, grocery prices are substantially down, eggs are easy to find, and the price has dropped 92%. Yeah, none of that is even remotely true. I don't know what people are thinking in voting for the billionaire who's almost definitely never had to actually purchase groceries in his entire life into office thinking he'll care about grocery prices. It was just a way to reel in voters, and they've lied about it ever since. He knows his cult will believe and parrot his lies. He creates the reality for his cult. He's never had any consequence to brazenly lying about stuff. So it emboldens him to say whatever the fuck he wants, knowing his mindless cult will accept it as true. Excuse me, but what the fuck? Do incels have a PAC now? Republican candidate proposes forcing migrant women to marry American men. Ah, modern America. Fucking grim. Why do people keep saying now? This shit's been pushed for decades. Ton of wealthy nerds wanting mail-order brides want a guarantee that they can't leave them. Not new, they just finally have full control to do it. Anyone heard of the president? Or the vice president? Why does everyone think they brought Andrew Tate to the US? They were talking to an expert on this. They needed someone to replace Epstein. I wonder what it could be. Hey, NBC News, you might want to look in your headline for the solution to the mystery. Motive of FSU shooter who spread far-right rhetoric still unclear. I think that headline is satirical because they can't openly say anything anymore. Looks like it's real. Searching for it comes up with a real NPC article, but the title has been updated to FSU's shooting suspect's complex past comes to light, yet motive remains a mystery. That's even softer. Wow. I have a feeling this won't be the last time. Days since classified military documents have been leaked in the Signal group chat. It could bring a tear to our eye. And also cheers to foreign adversaries. Loony Luma with another brain fart. Laura Luma, who recently met with Donald Trump in the Oval Office and influenced the firings of top national security officials, suggests that removing people from the United States without due process isn't so extreme when compared to the alternative: simply shooting them to death on sight. Yeah, I joked about the NKVD earlier. I hope this stays a joke in the foreseeable future. In most countries, when you cross the country illegally, you're shot to death on sight. Trump is gracious. Democrats should be happy he's deporting the illegals on planes. There's always alternatives. Just look at how trespassers are treated on foreign borders. How could you say that about a fellow human being? Fucking hell. Nothing to see here, only another case of blatant corruption. The IRS recently launched its own tax filing program that allowed taxpayers to file taxes for free. Tax prep companies like Intuit lobbied for years to stop the IRS from doing this. Intuit donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration. Now Trump is gutting the program. Hello?